Why would Christians seek to restrict the ministries of women and what they can do in the church? Well, Snodgrass says that the early church may well have thought that the question was strange. Only 3 reasons exist to restrict the ministry of women. Number 1, the tradition of patriarchy. Number 2, the influence of 2 New Testament texts, 1 Corinthians 14 and 1 Timothy 2. And number 3, an unjust and inflated view of church office. Snodgrass then says that we need to deal with 3 critical misconceptions as we arrive at a biblical case for the unrestricted ministry of women. So let's do that. My first assertion is this: support for women in ministry is not a result of feminism and an assault on traditional values. I've lost track of the amount of times I've heard complementarians say supporting women in ministry is a feminist agenda driven by concerns and values of a post-gender Western culture. They claim that the goal is to empower women to pursue their own version of patriarchal, worldly power by usurping men. These charges are completely untrue and amount to false accusations. The true goal of those supporting women in ministry is to move beyond the values of traditional or progressive cultures and instead be true to what the Bible teaches. What do we learn from the way in which Jesus treated women? What does the Bible really teach on women and on their participation in preaching ministry and in mission? My second assertion is this: support for women in ministry is not a result of a low view of authority of the Bible. Snodgrass says the second misconception is that a decision on this issue depends on whether one is theologically liberal or conservative generally, or whether one believes fully in the authority of the Bible. Neither is true. Regarding Scripture, people with equally high views of Scripture are on both sides of the debate. Indeed, many of us argue for the full ministry of women because Scripture pushes us to that conclusion. Another common false accusation that is made is that people who support women in ministry are theologically liberal or have abandoned a high view of the authority of Scripture. Again, this is totally untrue. I've seen some complementarians even say that they embrace a positive, literal reading of the Bible, while egalitarians are merely offering interpretations. This is misleading rhetoric and quite dishonest. In my experience, most Bible-believing Christians of other traditions, of both complementarian and egalitarian persuasions, have a very high view of the authority of the Bible. Let's honour each other. Let's do away with false and misleading accusations. The goals we all share are this: to love the Lord our God with all our heart, all our soul, all our mind, all our strength, to love our neighbour as ourselves, to rightly interpret and teach the truth of the gospel and the words of the Bible, to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ that all might be saved, and to have our hearts and lives and churches and world changed as a result of these convictions. My third assertion is this: supporting women in ministry is not linked with support for LGBTI issues. There is no link between what a person believes about women in ministry and what they believe about LGBTI issues. Again, to suggest that there is some kind of link is devious and quite dishonest. It is too easy for complementarians to caricature and throw false claims at egalitarians and vice versa. Instead, we need a posture of humility, honouring each other's efforts to faithfully interpret the Bible, and entering into respectful dialogue, discussion, and learning from each other. We may never agree on our conclusions, but we can agree to show each other respect, humility, grace, integrity, honour, and love.